Kees, I appreciate your time and your ability to talk about what's been going on. First, I'd like you to introduce yourself to our viewers and our listeners and tell them a little bit about your operation in Ukraine.
Yeah, so I've been farming in Ukraine for 20 years now. We started with 1,000 hectares, that's like 2,500 acres. And now we are on 15,000 hectares, so that's like 40 something thousand acres. We grow winter wheat, winter barley, winter canola, sugar beet, sunflowers, corn, and some soybeans. And we have 2,000 milking cows, 2,000 dairy cows, 450,000, 350 hectares of vegetables, onions and carrots with drip irrigation.
Let's start first and talk a little bit. Life really has been drastically changed in the last couple of weeks as Russia entered Ukraine and the war began. Talk to me a little bit about, as you look at what's been going on, really from an agricultural perspective, how things have been disrupted and changed.
Yeah, I mean, the whole agriculture, the whole world supply is interconnected. So, and now in Ukraine, this has been brutally disturbed. And I mean, I just this morning got a message through our agricultural association that the Ukrainian farmers need 200,000 tons of diesel to do the spring planting. So that's the most simple example I can give. I mean, if you don't have diesel, you can't start your tractors, you can't go planting. So, and the farmers, they already bought it. Or the traders bought the fuel, they paid for it to Belarus, for example, but they don't deliver now. So, and the same story goes for seed materials, for spare parts for machines, labor. I mean, a lot of guys went to the army, so, tractor drivers. Fertilizers are extremely expensive and hardly available. They're not being produced now. A lot of them come from Russia. And as a farmer, I mean, you need all these things as a farmer to produce a good yield, and that's all being in all kinds of ways. It's being disturbed now.
You've been very active in the last couple of weeks, giving viewers around the world an insight as to what's going on. And I greatly appreciate your time speaking with us today. Kees, you're just ahead of the planting season, and you are looking at all of these challenges from top to bottom. What happens in Ukraine this year? Does a crop happen? Is it even possible at this point?
Yeah, so that's a big question. I mean, with all this, the fuel shortages I talked about, 200,000 tons of diesel not being there, seeds not being there. I'm really worried that we can't get the stuff into the ground, or only partly in the ground. So, best case scenario is that we harvest something, but way less than a normal harvest. So if this doesn't stop soon, it will create a huge gap in world food supply.
Ukraine really is a breadbasket, and you mentioned crops: wheat, barley, corn, animals. Talk to me a little. Well, sunflowers and sugar beets, right? So all of these things that are so crucial to our global food supply. What's the potential disruption if there's not a resolution?
Ukraine is good for 50% of the sunflower oil supply to the world, and Ukraine is in a lot of lists, in the top 5 position of exporters to the world market. And out of the total production of Ukraine, the country needs about 25% for itself, and the rest goes to the world market. And last year's yield was total was around close to 90 million tons, grains and oil seeds. So of which we need around 25 million tons ourselves. yeah, so the rest goes to world market, and if that doesn't go to the world market, it will disrupt the whole system, and especially Southern Europe and North Africa, in the Middle East countries, they will suffer from this. You know, they will get hungry because food will be much more expensive. I mean, wheat already versus January rose with more than 50% wheat price. Um, you know, and I mean the rich countries, they will be able to pay a little bit more for their bread, but those poor countries where we had the Arabic Spring, for example, those people won't be able to pay for their, or they won't have enough money, you know, to survive the month. So, you know, and that will be catastrophic. You know, those people will start looking for food. They will start protesting, or they will start running around. You know, they come to Europe, and that's kind of a second front towards Europe. Europe will again be overwhelmed by refugees. Now they're overwhelmed by refugees from the east, from Ukraine, and then the refugees from the south will be added to this. So it's potentially, if this doesn't get solved soon, it will be a huge catastrophe.
You talked a little bit about exports, Kees. Can you talk about how that also plays into this whole disruption, and how this war exacerbates those challenges and those problems?
You know, so exports for Ukraine counts for Ukraine and Russia together are like 30% of the world export market of wheat. You know, and if the ports are closed, or if you can't get it harvested, or if you can't get it the crop properly maintained throughout the growing season, you know, that's all disruptions in the export. And I mean, the prices already rose with 50% versus January. Yeah, so I mean, that's gonna be a huge problem. I don't know what to say about this anymore. I mean, it's I don't know where it has to come, where else it has to come from. You know, you could plant more wheat, for example, more spring wheat, but it doesn't compensate for the losses in Ukraine. You know, in spring wheat, it needs a lot of, and wheat in general needs more fertilizer than soybeans, more nitrogen, especially more nitrogen fertilizer. And a lot of those fertilizers come from Russia and Belarus as well, and that's already also extremely expensive. So you know, farmers, I got some messages from farmers in America that they're going to plant less wheat and more soybeans because they need less fertilizer for soybeans, and maybe the fertilizer isn't available. I mean, partly here in Germany it's not available already. So the price is extremely high, but it's not available. So you know, the huge impacts all throughout the whole chain.
You mentioned you're on a German highway, or you're in Germany right now. You had a meeting this afternoon. Can you talk a little bit about that, and some of the things that you were sharing there?
So Marcus organized this meeting. He had a contact there. You know, he set up this meeting, and I was invited, and I just talked to them, you know, in the same talk I'm giving to you, trying to explain the world how bad this situation can evolve if it doesn't get solved within the next few days. And I mean, they were all listening, and they were all silent. So I think somehow they got the message. But you know, then they start talking politics, and I said, guys, you don't have time for politics. You have to make a decision within a few days to get this situation solved in whichever way it works.
Kees, you're a member of the Global Farmers Network. Can you talk a little bit about how that has been a tool for outreach and support for you during this time, and a little bit about what the network does?
Yeah, so it's a group of farmers from all around the world, from the United States, South America, Europe, India, Australia, Africa, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, and all kinds of different farmers. You know, and we exchange knowledge, and we often share knowledge. A lot of them are very, very active on social media, so they spread the farming word to the world. And that works pretty good. It's a pretty good network. You know, and when this war broke out, people started writing me. I was not so active. I was writing every now and then. I was writing a little bit, but since the war broke, that's how I also got a lot of contacts from people like you. You know, where I can tell the story of Ukraine, and that Ukraine deserves, the people of Ukraine deserve the support and the help from people all over the world, and farmers all over the world, but also that the public understands that there will be a huge food crisis on our way, and Middle East people.
Kees, thank you again so much for your time and your thoughts today. Any final closing comments before I let you go?
Yeah, well, the rest of the world really has to stand strong together, you know, to solve this issue. And the rest in the whole world together, they have to raise to increase the pressure and raise the stakes for Russia. I mean, and with immense pressure, we have to make sure that this war stops in the next few days.
Kees, again, thank you so much for your time. Please stay safe and keep us updated, and please continue to share your message.
I will. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I'm Meghan Grebner for Brownfield.